Hello and welcome everyone. We are doing our third video with Mr. Hermann Kibler, expert dairy farmer. In our previous videos for the AgriTech e-learning platform, we've talked about feed and nutrition, the importance of feed and nutrition for high-performing dairy cows, and we've also talked about the important aspects to consider when it comes to breeding and genetics for high performance dairy cows. However, there are many other important points for sound dairy farm management, and this is what we're going to discuss in today's video. So let's get right into it. Herman, what can you tell us about the importance of feeding to high merit genetic dairy cows?
Well, feeding is by far the biggest cost when it comes to dairy cows, and therefore also has got the biggest influence on production and hence profitability. So it's very important to understand that importance of feeding. And feeding is quite a complex issue, especially with dairy cows, since we need energy and protein in the right balance, but cows being also ruminants, fiber and especially the part of stringy fiber for being able to ruminate properly is very important with cows. So we got cows which have got high genetic merit, meaning that the cow has got high potential for high milk production, but that only can be utilized, the potential, if we get the feeding right. And there's many other aspects too, but with feeding, it's got the highest influence in terms of utilizing the genetics or underutilizing it.
So when we've considered that we have talked about two very important pillars of dairy farming, which is feed and nutrition and genetics, what is the third important pillar? What brings it all together?
What makes a difference is the way the farm is managed, management practices. And like you just rightly said, provided we got the efficient feed converting genetics there and we can feed them with good nutrition, then the management makes a difference in terms of bringing it all together and achieving the best result out of these pillars. Again, in dairy farming, feeding is the highest cost, and feeding is also the most important part of getting the cow to perform to the potential she's bred for. And there is many other ways of influencing the result, and that all comes together in management. If it's on the animal health side, if it's on the labor side, as I said, in the feeding, the milking management, the young stock and calf management, all these come under the big picture of managing the cows and the dairy farm to get the best result.
When it comes to management practices with regards feed and nutrition, what's important for a dairy farm manager or a dairy farmer to consider or to keep in mind?
Again, feeding has got the biggest influence on the cow's performance in terms of milk production and reproduction, and therefore also the highest influence on profitability. So it's very important that management has got the ability and capability of putting good feed rations together for different classes and types of the herd. Is it for the milking herd, the dry cows, and also for the young stock? Creating a balanced feed ration also is important for profitability. It's the highest quality feed for the highest performance at the lowest cost.
And of course, with any farm, with any dairy farm, it's important to understand the requirements in terms of resources, staff, and workers. What are some of the management practices that you can share with our listeners to optimize the performance at one's dairy farm?
Well, on larger commercial farms, staff is an important part of operating the farm. They need to know exactly how to handle the cows, how to treat them, and they have to be trained accordingly. So they actually handle the cows in a way that the cows feel comfortable and are always relaxed. Very important for milk letdown. And cows should never be mistreated. They should always feel comfortable in their environment. And so this is very, very important for the overall management of the farm and the performance of the farm.
And Hermann, what can you tell us about the process of milking? What can a dairy farm manager, a dairy farmer do to make sure that this process is run efficiently and effectively?
Well, again, cows have to be very comfortable when milking. They have to release the right hormones to have proper milk letdown. They have to be treated in the right way, and they also need to. It's best if they ruminate. That's a sign of being very content. Modern milking happens in the rotary parlors, and while the cows are moving around on the rotary platform, they love this motion. And if it's milking in any other way, this can be very similar. It's just not that the cows are moving, but they still have to be feeling comfortable, content, and that aids the milk letdown, and cows will have to like to come for milking, not be scared to come for milking. So it has to be an environment the cows feel very comfortable and want to go to.
And then, Hermann, we have the aspect of raising calves and so young stock management. What are some of the tips and important points that you can share with our listeners on that aspect?
Well, calves and young stock, rising 1 and 2 year olds, are the future herd on a dairy farm. They should be treated with respect and in the way that these are the best genetics on the farm. They need to get the best chance to come into herd and produce to their potential. They should not be seen as something on the side and certainly not neglected. They're not giving us an immediate return. They cost us money. After feeding, raising of the replacement cows is the highest cost on a dairy farm. So it should be treated in a way that it gives us the best return once this calf grows into a heifer, get pregnant at the right time, and then calves down and becomes a well-producing, long-lasting dairy cow in the herd.
And Hermann, just coming back to the point that we talked about earlier when it comes to, management practices of staff and workers, what can you tell us about training them? You mentioned that training is a very important aspect of is training your staff and staff and workers at a dairy farm. What can you tell us about that?
Well, dairying being a 24/7 operation, continuously operating all the time, every day and night, reliance on staff, especially on larger farms, is very important. And they have to be able to do their best job unsupervised. And for that, it's important to train the workers appropriately and properly. So know exactly how to go about the daily routine, how to treat the cows in the best possible way, how to handle the milk, and how to feed the cows and the calves. And I guess it's a matter of always striving for best practices. And of course, this has got a direct impact on the performance of the farm and the profitability of the operation on a dairy farm.